All right, moving on to Oklahoma City and Cleveland. 2 more games. So OKC controlled this game for the most part. They had a double-digit lead for most of the second quarter and the beginning of the third. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was torching them. But then Cleveland fought their way back into the game, late third, early fourth, with some really impressive perimeter defense, something we don't expect from this team. This has been a weak perimeter defense team that is excellent in rotation and excellent at the basket protecting the paint, right? And it's a lot of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland just kind of floating around defensively, not giving up a lot of dribble penetration, but them just having the back-end talent to kind of clean it up, right? And what I really appreciated down the stretch of this game is it was their perimeter defense that got them back into it. And why that's exciting is like when you pair elite perimeter defense with elite rim protection, that's when you reach like a true level of defensive potential that can carry you to a championship in the big picture, right? And it comes down to a couple different things because like Caris LeVert has always been a very good perimeter defender, and he gave Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all sorts of problems in the second half of this game as he kind of I would say Caris LeVert deserves the majority of the credit for slowing down the Thunder offense in the second half of this game. But Donovan Mitchell legitimately through 2 games is playing his ass off on defense. Like he's trying harder on the defensive end than I've ever seen him try. And then Max Strus is just a solid perimeter defender who is also a smart team defender in rotation. Dean Wade was very good defensively down the stretch of this game, containing the ball against Jalen Williams, helping and recovering off the ball. They just, as a unit, contained the basketball really well. And especially with cutting off the head of the snake the way that Caris LeVert did on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the most part, they prevented the Thunder from getting those easy driving kick opportunities. Remember, the Thunder are a team that is a ton of aggregate ball handling and shooting. Everybody in that lineup can shoot. Everybody can dribble. And so, like, if you let them play driving kick basketball and beat you off the dribble and get the defense into rotation, they're going to pick you apart. But if you can contain them, you know, a lot of those guys like Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams at this phase in his career as a young player, Chet Holmgren at this phase in his career as a young player, Lou Dort is a guy who's better attacking closeouts than a set defense. They're not going to beat dudes off the dribble a ton. They need to get that initial advantage, right? And the Cavs just basically took that away and shut them down for an extended stretch there in the fourth quarter as they built a 10-point lead. On the other end of the floor, Donovan Mitchell had a really impressive stretch. He had a driving and one over Lou Dort in transition. He hit Dean Wade on a back cut. One of the better passes I've seen Donovan Mitchell make coming along the right wing. He sees Dean Wade and kind of loops the ball out to the side and just hits him in stride to throw down a dunk on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He hit a couple of pull-up jumpers too. Cavs are up 100-90. But then the Thunder finally start getting Cleveland into rotation. First play, Caris LeVert gambles for a steal on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the left corner. Shai kind of like taps it to himself over the top, catches it, gets downhill to the rim, draws a crowd, throws a kick-out pass to Lou Dort at the top of the key. Wide open 3, knocks it down. It's 100-93. Cavs go get a bucket on the other end. It's 112-93. Dort runs down in transition along the right side and runs a ghost screen with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, again, they were containing the ball. If you think of the key like this, or the three-point line like this, they were containing the driving lanes towards the basket, but Lou Dort did something that I thought was really smart. He just went really fast towards the short corner. And on the play, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sets a screen for him. Both defenders run with Dort, just pitches it back to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for a wide-open 3. Those ghost screens are really hard to guard because most often they're going to switch, and it's just really hard for a guy who's running full speed to hand off to someone else who's standing still, but he's standing still and has to guard the player who's running full speed. And so inevitably, it's almost like gravity. It just kind of pulls both guys in that direction. That's why ghost screens work so well. And so he pitches it back to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, wide open 3, and he knocks it down, 102-96. Very next possession, they come down, they run a kind of a version of Spain pick and roll where Jalen Williams runs a ball screen with Chet, right? But as Chet is rolling, again, in Spain pick and roll, sometimes the shooter will back screen for the roll man so he can go to the basket for a dunk. Sometimes the roll man will down screen for the shooter coming up. In this play, Chet sets the ball screen on Jalen Williams, turns and on his roll to the basket, sets a pin down for Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe curls the pin down because he's a shooter. Defenders in trail position, he gets downhill. It's a pitch back to a wide open Jalen Williams at the top of the key. He knocks down a 3. Now it's 102-99. Then Lou Dort takes over as one of the best. I missed one. So then on the very next possession, Max Strus cuts down the lane and throws a wild layup up and falls into camera row. And like I always say, when you miss layups and you try to draw fouls, it's kind of a poor strategy for your transition defense, because if you're probably not going to get the call because refs are trying to limit the flopping and all that stuff anyway. And the risk reward factor is kind of shitty, because if you don't get the call, it's going to be a fast break the other way, because you're going to lose floor balance because you have a defender laying on the ground in camera row. So Strus is laying on the ground. Thunder run the other way 5-on-4. In the transition defense, remember, you always go to the basket first and then you flare out to shooters. Chet Holmgren ends up trailing the play wide open, and he knocks down the three. Now it's 102-102, and we're tied. And again, like, what's crazy about that sequence is that's back-to-back-to-back-to-back threes for the Thunder, but all four of them were from different players off of different action. And what's interesting about that is it wasn't just one guy got hot. This is just the level of skill that this team has, and they're capable, when they run action well and they can get the defense into rotation, they're capable of generating high-quality shots for guys that are going to make it. Like in that lineup, it's Isaiah Joe. He's going to make shots. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's going to make shots. Jalen Williams, if you leave him open, he's going to make shots. Chet Holmgren is shooting 71% from three so far at this season. Like, these guys are going to make shots, and they have the ability to generate them as long as they can get the defense into rotation. So it's 102-102, and then Lou Dort takes over the game as one of the best perimeter defenders in the world. This is something I've said that made me so excited about this Thunder team. The idea of pairing Lou Dort, who I believe is a top-tier perimeter defender, and Chet Holmgren, who had 7 blocks in the game yesterday. When you combine those two pieces, specifically Lou Dort and his ability to navigate screens, Lou Dort is damn near impossible to screen. When you combine that with real rim protection, you can cause real problems for the best offenses in the league. And so Lou Dort takes the game over with back-to-back defensive possessions on Donovan Mitchell. First one's in pick and roll. On the ball screen, Lou Dort just refuses to be screened. And this is Donovan Mitchell, one of the best athletes in the league. He's trying to get downhill. Lou Dort cuts him off, gets over the top of the screen, and beats him downhill. So as a result, Jalen Williams and everyone's able to stay home on their shooters. Donovan Mitchell finds himself in trouble because he's going downhill and pick and roll. He doesn't have a shot and he doesn't have a pass. So he ends up just jumping and just throwing the ball away. Turns it over. They go down the other end, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Isaiah Joe run a ghost screen, a pick and pop action. And on the action, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander draws 2, pitches it back to Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe skips it over to the left wing to Lou Dort. Dean Wade's kind of caught no man's land between the shooter in the corner and Lou Dort. I think it was Jalen Williams in the corner. He's kind of splitting the difference. Max Strus, it kind of doesn't understand whether or not Dean Wade's going to the corner or to the wing. Lou Dort sees the opportunity. He drives the closeout, gets inside, makes a layup to put him up 114-112. And then the next possession, Donovan Mitchell says, screw it, I'm not going to take a ball screen. I'm just going to try to shoot over to Lou Dort. And Lou Dort's one of the best individual defenders in the world. He slides his feet and forces Donovan Mitchell into an air ball, and Oklahoma City wins the game. So again, super high-level offensive talent on display, an incredible perimeter defense on display from OKC as they come back to win the game. And again, you're adding real rim protection with Chet Holmgren. He had a huge block late in the game on Evan Mobley when it was 102-96 that directly led to the Jalen Williams 3 to get it back to 3. And you've got this outstanding perimeter defender that can't be screened, and you're seeing the elite defensive potential. The Thunder have a 102.5 defensive rating so far through 2 games, which is outstanding. Chet Holmgren averaging 3.5 blocks per game and shooting 71% from 3. I said before I said when he came into the league that I viewed him as essentially like the ideal modern center, the guy who could legitimately be your defensive anchor while simultaneously giving you true 5-out spacing and opening up driving lanes, and he's doing that. And in the big picture, he's going to be an excellent wing scorer as well. He's not showing too much of it. He's done some of it, but I think his first NBA basket was like a half spin back fadeaway over his left shoulder. Like, he's got really high level wing scoring potential as well in the big picture. And that might be something they lean more on in the big picture when he gets older. I can't possibly conceptualize a better fit with this OKC core than Chet. On the Cavs front, it's tough to take too much away from these two games because both of them have been so freaking wild. Like the Nets game, they were down big and had no business winning, and then they stole it. And then in this game, they were up big, and then they blew it. So hard to make heads or tails out of that. The perimeter defense, though, is exciting. Again, like LeVert's always been pretty good there. But if Donovan Mitchell has his best perimeter defense season as a pro, and you add Max Strus into that equation, he didn't shoot well today, but he was a positive and made a lot of winning plays. And then if Dean Wade is going to be able to play like that, especially with his length, like you can have some exciting defensive potential with this team as well. And when you combine that with the return of Jared Allen with real rim protection, right next to Evan Mobley, that they could be even more imposing defensively than they were last year. My biggest gripe right now with the Cavs is offensively they're a little too reliant on Donovan Mitchell, and when he's not hitting shots, they're struggling to score right now. And like that's kind of what these games have looked like. It's like Donovan hits a couple shots in a row, makes a couple plays in a row, and the Cavs go on a big run, and then he goes ice cold and misses a couple in a row or throws a couple bad passes in a row, and then they immediately start to hemorrhage the lead.